Final preparations underway in downtown Victoria this morning. A typical November day, a lot of rain in the forecast, but Islanders are still making their way to local cenotaphs, and right there I saw a rainbow. People honoring, remembering, and paying their respects to so many who have served and continue to serve, defending the values and freedoms that we will never take for granted. Canadians coast to coast taking a moment to pause and reflect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Hello, and welcome to our special Remembrance Day coverage here on CHEK. My name is Paul Haysom. It is an honor and an absolute privilege to be part of this program today. The ceremony at the Victoria Cenotaph will begin just before 11. We will bring you that service live in its entirety, commercial-free, once it begins. But first, I would like to introduce you to some special guests in studio today who will be helping guide us through the next hour. Retired Colonel Richard Talbot from the Canadian Scottish Regiment, and Lieutenant Commander Judith Harlock, a senior staff officer from Maritime Forces Pacific. Thank you both for being here today.
You're welcome.
My pleasure.
Judith, I'd like to start with you because this is a very special year for you, your final year in uniform. Tell me about that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for the question, Paul. It's a very poignant year for myself. I've just completed 38 years of service. This will be my 38th year Remembrance Day in uniform, and it's also my last one. So over the course of the last few weeks, I've been reflecting on my last 38 years and all the Remembrance Day ceremonies I've attended, from the first one at the National War Memorial in Ottawa to the most recent last year at the National Military Cemetery in Ottawa. And it's just bittersweet for me being here today in studio to share some of my thoughts with you.
Well, thank you for sharing the day with us, but thank you for your service as well. Much appreciated. And Richard, this is my first year with the CHEK Remembrance Day broadcast. This is not your first day with the CHEK Remembrance Day broadcast. We talk about the power and the importance of this day. Why is this day so important to you?
Well, I think really when you think back to the two world wars and Korea, and of course more recently Afghanistan, we do need to remember those who gave up their lives for our freedom and fought for our country. And I think one day a year is the least we can do to celebrate their lives and remember them. And hopefully it's something which will keep going forever.
Yeah, truly. And Judith, just looking at those pictures off the top, and when Richard was speaking there, quite a good turnout in Victoria, despite the rainy weather that we often see around here. How important is that?
The turnout of the crowds is a positive indication that the community wants to share in the act of remembrance, and they want to do it in person if they're able to. So I just think that is fantastic with the numbers of individuals coming out. When I see families with their children, that resonates with me because the children are our future.
Yeah, a lot of families and a lot of children there today as we look at live pictures. Rainy, but that is not going to damper such an important ceremony. Now, of course, ceremonies happening all over this country right now, and that includes in the nation's capital, the National Remembrance Day ceremony at the National War Memorial in Ottawa. Veterans, family members, and politicians gathering in the nation's capital with a ceremony organized by the Royal Canadian Legion unfolding under some cloudy skies there as well. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Governor General Mary Simon both on hand. Speakers calling on Canadians to reflect on the country's involvement in conflicts throughout history and to say thank you to everyone who has served and continues to serve. Now, according to Veterans Canada, there are now a little more than 9,000 veterans of the Second World War and the Korean War left in this country. BC Premier David Eby released a statement this morning. It says, in part, "At cenotaphs and memorials around the province, we stand in solidarity with active service members, as well as veterans of the armed forces and merchant mariners. On this solemn day, we remember those who sought and continue to seek a better world for us, lest we forget." Now, of course, Remembrance Day ceremonies will be happening in so many communities across Vancouver Island today, and that includes the Comox Valley, where Dean Stoltz is standing by with a special guest in Comox.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. And I'm here this morning with Bob Hodgson, a veteran And just, Bob, tell me what you can about your service, first of all.
Sure. I joined as a young trooper in an armored regiment, became a corporal, and at 17 years old I drove a tank and was a signal operator. I then joined the regular Army, commissioned as an artillery officer, and served for another 32 years in various regiments all over Canada, including out of country in Germany, Lebanon, Syria, Israel, Egypt, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Croatia, Somalia. Need I say more?
Extensive background, many memories, many you probably don't even want to share, but it does shape how you feel about today. And what can you tell me about your emotions today?
This whole week is very difficult for me. It triggers bad memories and that sort of thing. Yes, war is horrific, and it bothers me that we hear the term war is just a continuation of politics and a different means. And I say war is a failure of our world leaders and our politicians to solve differences through negotiation, compromise, and that sort of thing. Instead, they send guys like me and my fellow soldiers off to war to solve the problems. War solves nothing. That's my strong feeling, and it makes me, I have a hard time dealing with today particularly because of that.
Thank you for sharing that. It's very poignant, and you do share that story and others as well, that message with students, 1,300 yesterday here in the Comox Valley. What do you share with them?
I gave them a short story concerning my duty in Bosnia, where I was shelled for roughly 31 days. And every morning when I went out to leave this bombed out hotel I was in to investigate yet another atrocity, I was followed by a lot of children, and the children would yell at me, "Bon bon, cigarette for my grandfather." No, I didn't give them any cigarettes, but I always had candy with them. And as I was talking to these kids and they're calling out, "Bon bon, cigarette for my grandfather," this piece of shrapnel from a shell that landed a block away came flying through the air. And that girl was about 10 feet from me, landed between us, smoking away, hot as can be, and I looked at the shrapnel, she looked at the shrapnel, and she said to me, "Bon bon, cigarette for my grandfather." Draw your own conclusions from this story.
You couldn't believe it. And it haunts you to this day.
Indeed, yes.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Paul, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dean, and thank you, Bob, for that powerful story. We're going to go back to the Cenotaph in Victoria now, where Ollie Herrera is standing by with a very special guest as well, a man who will be laying a wreath today, Ollie.
Yeah, hey Paul, I'm out here at the Cenotaph. The rain has come back here, but that hasn't stopped the thousands of people here from paying their respects to those who have fallen and those who still continue to serve us. I'm honored to be here with Major Retired Jerry Ratchford, 95 years old, and he was a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces. He served in Cyprus and Korea, and he was also part of the Black Watch, Canada's oldest regiment. And Jerry, you were telling me just earlier with the Black Watch, when it rains, it pours. You want to just quickly explain what that means?
What that means is that anytime we're out on a special parade, it would rain on us. So they say it never rains, it just pours.
Jerry, being here in the rain, seeing people of all ages paying their respects, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good. It makes me feel that I have served my country well, and I still continue to do it. And remembering all the people that I've known over the years, especially with the Duke of Connaught's Own Rifles, as I knew him in 1940, the Rocky Mountain Rangers, and all the other regiments that I've been coming in contact, and with all those who gave their lives, and especially the 516 that gave their lives in Korea.
You have 40 years of service, and you're decorative. You have over a dozen medals, and you're still, in a way, serving. You work security at CFB Esquimalt. Why do you still continue to serve?
I'm not ready to go upstairs yet. It's I like to be active. I've known too many people that take and put their feet up and then next thing you know they're gone. But I like to keep active.
Today we paused for 2 minutes to remember those. But what are some other ways that you think we can honor veterans and those still serving year-round?
Stand behind them. We need your support, like we always have. And the more we support our troops, whether they be overseas or here in Canada, wherever they're serving, that we need their support.
Jerry, I can tell you, myself and everyone here stands behind you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your service. I really appreciate it.
Good. Thanks very kindly.
Back to you, Paul.
Very, very well said from Jerry. Thanks so much, Ollie, as we come back to studio here with Retired Colonel Richard Talbot and Lieutenant Commander Judith Harlock. And I'm interested, Richard, because you actually know Jerry from a few years ago.
Yeah, when I was commanding officer of the Canadian Scottish back in the 70s, Jerry came and took command of our Cadet Corps, Victoria Cadet Corps.
Wow.
And I haven't seen him for 50 years.
50 years. How's he looking?
He looks
good.
amazing. I'm ashamed to say that I'm dragging behind a bit.
No, you look great as well. Judith, I'm interested. We talk about the power of standing behind our veterans, but I'm interested in the power this year, especially with so much turmoil, so much bloodshed that's still happening right now overseas. How much more important is it this year?
With all the strife going on throughout the globe, the impact to various democracies and freedoms affects everyone, whether it be right here, right now, or through family connections with those loved ones that still live in other parts of the world. So with the global picture, in my opinion, what the Canadian Armed Forces is currently doing to protect and validate those freedoms is key. So for communities to stand behind the currently serving soldiers, sailors, and air personnel gives them the strength to carry on what they're doing in those places far away from home.
Very well said. Richard, how important is Canada's role in all of this?
Well, Canada's role is very important, really. We have to remember that during the two world wars, we played a very major role indeed. We were one of the leading Western powers that defeated Germany in both wars. Things have shrunk, sadly, since then, but our reputation has been retained. And whether it was in peacekeeping or in Afghanistan or in the Balkans, the first people that United Nations or other nations call for is, can Canada come and help? Now, unfortunately, we don't have the kind of resources we used to have.
Right.
But we're certainly right up there as the first call.
Yes, we'll answer that call as well. We are going to take a very short break, our only commercial break of this broadcast, and we're going to take another live look at the cenotaph in Victoria as people make their way to cenotaphs right across this province. Many Canadian service members are fighting for our freedoms away from home right now, and a few of them sent us a video of what Remembrance Day means to them. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Third Class Barry. I'm from Campbell River, British Columbia, and I'm currently deployed in His Majesty's Canadian ship Vancouver in the Indo-Pacific region. To me, Remembrance Day is an important day to remember the fallen and those Canadians who have sacrificed their lives both in times of war and peace.
Hi there, my name is Sailor First Class Timmer. I'm a bosun here deployed on NRU Asterix. I'm born and raised in Victoria, British Columbia. Remembrance Day for me means honoring and remembering those who have fought for our country at home and abroad.
I'm Petty Officer Second Class David Carley, and I was born in Victoria, British Columbia. It's obviously being deployed at sea for Remembrance Day this year. really no different, but ultimately my thoughts will be towards all the sacrifices made, and the ultimate sacrifice in some cases of people for the Canadian Armed Forces.
I'm Master Sailor Amanda Harding, a shipborne air controller on board HMCS Ottawa. During this Remembrance Day, I'd like to thank a special member in the service, my father. His longtime dedication to this country inspired me to join, see the world, and fulfill countless opportunities just like he did. I'd like to also acknowledge our veterans and those who have fought and passed on. From all of us on HMCS Ottawa, Bravo Zulu, and thank you for everything.
Thank you for everything. Powerful words as we welcome you back to our special Remembrance Day coverage here on CHEK. This is a live look at the cenotaph in Victoria. We, of course, will be bringing you that service in its entirety once things get underway. Welcome back to our special Remembrance Day coverage. My name is Paul Haysom, along with retired Colonel Richard Talbot and Lieutenant Commander Judith Harlock. As you saw, we are just moments away from that full service at the cenotaph. That includes, of course, the laying of the wreath by Silver Cross Mother Sheila Fines. Richard, do you mind walking us through what to expect in the next half hour and what you're going to be watching for?
Well, I think really what the Legion tries to do is to try and include as many people as possible so that there is participation from the many people who are gathered here, as well as the serving soldiers and sailors and airmen whom you can only just see formed up along the street there. But of course there are contingents from all three services, plus the Naden Band.
Wow.
And the Canadian Scottish Pipes and Drums. I mustn't forget them.
Of course, you can't forget them. No, and there we see the band
pipe
going.
Major otherwise. And so I think really it follows a very traditional format. And in the many Remembrance Day ceremonies that I've attended over the years, really the format doesn't really change.
No.
It's got a limited number of prayers, it's got hymns and participation, and of course climaxes with the laying of wreaths.
Yeah. The times may change, but our respect never will.
Yeah.
And that service is starting to get underway at the cenotaph. But before you get to that, Judith, what are you going to be watching for?
Paul, with this year being the 75th anniversary of the first peacekeeping mission, I'm going to be watching for individuals who may be wearing the blue UN beret,
Right.
and maybe seeing if I can see anyone with UN medals. Also, I'll be thinking about all my brothers and sisters in arms who are currently serving on various operations throughout the world today.
Right. And the peacekeeping has a special meaning for you, doesn't it?
Yes, indeed. I've been privileged to be a peacekeeper twice in my career, the first time in 1997 and the second time in 2010.
My goodness. And so when you say the berets, what does that represent?
To me, it represents that watchful eye, the peacekeepers who are there to keep things on an even keel, observe, help in various conflicts, not through any kind of aggressiveness, but through diplomacy. And I think that's a role that Canada plays very well in peacekeeping missions, is their ability to execute and be diplomatic.
Richard, looking at that turnout, does that surprise you? I mean, it is rainy and it can get pretty ugly out there, but it's just amazing how many people have shown up.
Well,
What
I
is that?
think, you know, we were worried that after Afghanistan it would dwindle, but it didn't really seem to. And I suspect that with the conflicts going on around the world right now, it's resurrected memories for people who might have been wavering and are probably coming out as well. So I think it's, yeah, it's very good. It's holding steady.
Some shorts there, or kilts, I think, under there.
Yeah, that's the Canadian-Scottish
Yeah, that's
contingent.
right. I was making sure that you saw that as well. Judith, you are saying when we were showing some of the service members from overseas, saying what Remembrance Day meant for them, you said you're thinking of them because you were lucky enough that you got to be in Canada most times when Remembrance Day hit.
And thanks for sharing that with me. So throughout my career, I've been privileged in that, although I've been deployed many times, I've been blessed in that I've always been home for Remembrance Day, and I've also always been home for Christmas. So I always pause and have those special thoughts for individuals that are deployed and away from home on Remembrance Day, because the significance of Remembrance Day has so much more meaning when you're away from home serving.
Really? Richard, how about you? I know you've served overseas.
Well, I'm rather the opposite.
Yeah.
So during my family were Army, my father was Army, and so we served pretty well between my father and myself, pretty well around the world. Yeah. So Remembrance Day in New Zealand, Hong Kong, South America, but in every case it's equally important.
Yes.
And in a way it's rather nice to have totally different people there commemorating different memories. Mm-hmm. And you certainly learn a lot from their own experiences. Mm-hmm. I think particularly of the fall of Hong Kong, for example, and many of the people I met there were at the fall of Hong Kong, defending against the Japanese as they took over the island. So
wow. Okay.
Fascinating.
It is fascinating indeed. I'm told that some of the dignitaries are starting to arrive. The service is starting to get underway at the Cenotaph in Victoria. So we're going to take you there now. The Master of Ceremonies, Chris Dorrington, will be the next voice you hear.
Today, let us remember those who have died in the service of their country, those who we knew, those whose memory we treasure, and all those who have lived and died in the service of mankind. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for our national anthem, led today by Stephanie Greaves.
Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada,
memory of the fallen, the act of remembrance will be read today by Cadet Warrant Officer 2nd Class Darius Ignatius from 89 Pacific Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadron.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to join in the singing of O God, Our Help in Ages Past. This hymn will be followed by prayer and the benediction, led by Legion Padre, the Reverend Canon Andrew E. Gates, CD. The Victoria Orion Male Choir that has led our singing here at the Cenotaph since 1929 will then sing in Flanders Fields.
"25 years later, there wasn't much to see. The sun shone on Peggy's Cove. It was a difficult place for me. My old friend Guzzy had been there. He was one of the first to respond. No one survived the Swissair crash. Even those who responded suffered a lot. Guzzy got PTSD, or PTSD, a chaplain casualty. Our hearts go out to the ordinary folk, those few people see. The innocents killed in the parking lot of a hospital. The reservist who served with the Patricias at the Medak Gap, sitting at home in his basement, contemplating suicide, looking at pictures that he'd taken way back then. The peace officer, one of too many who have given their lives. The list is long. There are too many, many stories. God, here's to the veteran who answered the call. Here's to the ones who gave their all. Here's to the ones left behind, the sweethearts, the mums and dads, the brothers, sisters, kids, families, friends, them all. And God, here's to our country. Our peace is so fragile. Give our leaders wisdom. Keep them and us strong and free, and ever mindful that the sacrifice made by others isn't lost for us today. And this is my blessing. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers, at half-truths, superficial relationships, so that you will live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, exploitation of people, so that you will work for justice, equity, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, from rejection, starvation, and war, so that you will reach out your hand to comfort them and change their pain to joy. And may God bless you with foolishness to think that you can make a difference in the world, so that you will do the things which others tell you simply cannot be done. Amen.
Says grow on road that's marked down place, and in the sky the lark still bravely singing far, scattered away the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, till dawn saw sunsets glow. Love that were love, and now we lie in Flanders take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold its high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
In order to best accommodate the larger number of wreaths for today's ceremony, we have adopted a slightly different format than those followed in previous years. Wreath layers will be called up in 7 different groups. The members of each group will please follow each other to the cenotaph. Movement around the cenotaph will flow from right to left. The intent is that to facilitate collective wreath laying, participants will ring around the cenotaph, lay their wreaths as close together as possible, turn to the right, and continue to circle the cenotaph back past this podium and return to your seats. There are some exceptions to this. When called, The Lieutenant Governor and the Silver Cross Mother will please each proceed individually and once, having laid their wreaths, turn to the right and return directly to their seats. When the Armed Forces units are called, we would request that the base commander be centered on the cenotaph, with the additional units flanking him on either side where space permits. Once gathered as a group, please place your wreaths at the same time. All other groups, when called, will proceed from the seating area, ring the cenotaph from right to left, lay their wreaths together, turn right, and please then proceed past this podium back to your seats. The laying of wreaths will now commence. The Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia, the Honourable Janet Austin, the Silver Cross Mother and family, Mrs. Sheila Fines, accompanied by her husband Sean and son Michael. Government representatives. For the Government of Canada, Laurel Collins, Member of Parliament for Victoria. For the Government of British Columbia and Premier David Eby, the Honourable Grace Lord, Minister of State for Childcare and MLA for Victoria, Beacon Hill. The MLA for Victoria, Swan Lake, the Honourable Rob Fleming. For the City of Victoria, Mayor Marianne Alto. For the City of Port Angeles, Mayor Kate Dexter. Representatives for the Canadian Armed Forces. For the Commander, Maritime Forces Pacific, Captain Kevin Whiteside, Base Commander, accompanied by Chief Petty Officer First Class Susan Frisbee, Base Chief. For the Canadian Scottish Princess Mary's Regiment, Major Slade Lurch, Deputy Commanding Officer and Chief Warrant Officer Brad Farrell, Regimental Sergeant Major. For the 5th BC Field Artillery Regiment, Major Krista Savola, Battery Commander and Master Warrant Officer Lisa Kachanowski. For the Canadian Rangers, Lieutenant Colonel J.P. Roy, Commanding Officer and Chief Warrant Officer D.G. Schultz. Representative of veterans organizations. For the Royal Canadian Legion Branch Number 292, Bill Wilson, President. For the Royal Canadian Legion Branch Number 7, Keith Yao, President. For the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 127, Mel Smith, Past President. For the Army, Navy, and Air Force Veterans in Canada, BC Command, Ed Emmerich, President. For the Army, Navy, and Air Force Association, Unit 12, Donna May. For the Army, Navy, and Air Force Association, Unit 12, Ladies Auxiliary, Angela Ray. For the Naval Association of Canada, Vancouver Island Branch, Mike Broussard. For the Korea Veterans Association of Canada, Unit 27, Ted 80 and Jerry Ratchford. For the Métis Veterans of British Columbia, Barbara Hume, Métis Veterans of BC Women's Representative, and Patrick Harriott, Region 1 Director. For Veterans Affairs Canada, Area Director, Bev Martin. For the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Laura Neal, First Vice President, Royal Canadian Legion Branch 292. Representatives of community and support organizations. For the Victoria Police Department, Chief Del Manick and Constable Sonny Govis. For the Victoria Fire Department, Fire Chief Daniel Atkinson. For the International Association of Firefighters Local 730, Rich Fryer. For the BC Emergencies Health Services, Brad Mitchell, South Island Director. For the St. John's Ambulance, Ross Nichols, Provincial Board Chair. For the Commissionaires of Victoria, the Islands and Yukon, Marc Bressaleur and Al Giesbrecht. Representatives for the Youth of Canada. For the 5th Kwantlen Pathfinders, Persephone Pinch and Zoha Sayed. For War Amps Operation Legacy, Sophie Wood and Ethan Van Tol. For the Army Cadet League of Canada, BC Branch, Leslie Triplett. This concludes the formal laying of wreaths. We would kindly ask that family and friends who wish to lay a wreath for a loved one, please do so following the conclusion of the formal service. Members of the public may also come forward and place their poppies at that time. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to complete the formal part of our ceremony. Following the singing of God Save the King, there will be a royal salute, after which Lieutenant Governor Janet Austin departs for the saluting dais, escorted by Mr. Bill Wilson, President of Branch 292. This will be followed by a general salute, after which Captain Kevin Whiteside will also proceed to the reviewing dais, escorted by Chief Petty Officer First Class Susan Frisbee and Roe Campbell, Acting Vice President of the Poppy Fund. The parade contingents will then move off for the march past. Please stand and join in the singing of God Save the King, led by Stephanie Greaves.
God save our gracious King, long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King.
The service at the Victoria Cenotaph wrapping up. The Lieutenant Governor will leave, and then people will be laying their poppies on the wreaths. I'm Paul Haysom, along with Retired Colonel Richard Talbot and Lieutenant Commander Judith Harlock. A emotional ceremony in the Inner Harbour today. I want to start with you, Richard, because you mentioned it almost felt historical there with the female Lance Corporal playing the bagpipes. That was powerful.
Well, I think that's probably a first. Normally the Plant Major plays.
Right.
So to delegate it to a Lance Corporal and a female Lance Corporal, I think is probably a first for Canada. I've not heard of it anywhere else. So I think that's a step as to where we're heading in the future.
Yeah, Judith, what did you think of just the ceremony and the emotions that were clearly there on a soggy Victoria Day?
Well, I'd just like to make a comment about the Lance Corporal Piper being youthful.
Yes.
And what I noticed is behind the Piper, there was a group of youth, which I thought was a very poignant and meaningful visual for me, in that our youth are our future. What stood out for me emotionally was when the cameras panned the crowd, the number of individuals that appeared to me to be in silent reflection and I could actually see the emotion on their faces. And I thought that was another poignant piece of the emotion behind the ceremony, behind the significance of today. Just individuals doing their own self-reflection.
Yeah, and that was what officials in Ottawa asked Canadians to do today, is reflect and respect, pay those respects. Richard, I was interested what jumped out to you, because I got quite emotional when I heard those bagpipes, but also during the flyover. Was there any moment in particular that jumped out to you?
Well, whenever I hear the flowers of the forest, obviously that's very emotional. I mean, I've heard that all over the world, really, and it always, not quite, but brings a tear to the eye. But and at many a funeral, of course, it's played as well. So it's good to see the Scottish traditions mixed in with the mainstream traditions. So there's a little bit for everybody. And of course, we have lots of Scottish descendants on Vancouver Island. So.
Of course we do. And Judith, when you do look back and look forward for Canada and our armed forces, who do you think of on a day like today? I know obviously there's got to be so many people who are coming through your mind, but who do you think of?
There's three different pockets of people that I actually think of. The first pocket or the first thought is definitely towards our fallen, those individuals who made the ultimate sacrifice for us to have the liberties and freedoms that we do today. The second pocket or group of people that I think about are those currently serving, whether they're here in Canada or deployed. They're doing their part in order for individuals to once again have those liberties and freedoms. And then I guess the third pocket or group I think of is those yet to come, those who will serve in the future, those who have not yet joined the Canadian Armed Forces. They're the ones that will definitely take the Canadian Armed Forces into the future. So it's a lot of thinking, a lot of people, three different thought perspectives, but that's what I'm thinking of today.
No, that's very powerful. Richard, same question to you.
Well, I obviously am. I'm a little older than Judith, but so I can. I was born during the Second World War, so it's particularly the Second World War vets that always come to my mind, including my father, of course. And I knew so many of them, and they've all gone. So I can't help thinking about those who were his comrades and who were good to me as a child and later when I became an officer myself. So those are always my prime ones. More recently, we were fortunate as a regiment, as I'm talking my British regiment now, where we didn't lose, we only lost a couple of people in 10 years service. Wow. So we didn't suffer any of the disasters that happened in the past. So very fortunate in a way.
Again, I mean, I can't say it enough, but thank you so much for your service to both of you. Judith, you spoke about the future. What does that future look like in your eyes? Because there's no doubt a lot of things and issues that Canadians are dealing with. No doubt the armed forces are part of that, but what is Canada's role moving forward? What does that look like?
That is a very good question that I don't think there's any one particular way I could actually answer that. I think, as the soldiers would have said way back when, watch and learn, watch and observe. And I think that's going to be the big thing that I'll be doing over the next few years, is just watching and see where the future goes. There's so many things that are happening in the world right now that it's really hard to put your finger on that one or two things that could be the instrument of the future.
Yeah. And Richard, I'll close with you. I'll ask you about the importance of Canada's role in Canada moving forward.
Well, I think Canada has a tremendous role to play as a role model, really, for a multicultural society where people can 99.9% of the time live in peace and harmony. And that's so different from many other countries, including even our own neighbor. So I think that we're a role model, and we hopefully will retain that role model status throughout the world.
It's coming to a close there. A lot of people braving the rain today. Are you quite impressed as I am?
Oh, absolutely.
I am too. I was blown away by how many people are downtown today. Well, that is going to conclude our Remembrance Day broadcast today. I want to say another big thank you to both of our guests for being here today, not just for coming into studio, a warm studio albeit, but coming into studio, but both of you for your service. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me.
And from all of us here at CHEK, thank you for sharing part of your day with us. And most of all, to all of our veterans, past and present, and their families, thank you. We will have much more Remembrance Day coverage on CHEK News at 5 tonight, of course, online at cheknews.ca and on CHEK Plus. We leave you now with In Flanders Fields, the poem by John McCrae, read by CBC Radio 1 broadcaster Michael Enright, who is joined by Michaela, Cabot, and Nelson from George J. Elementary. Thanks again for watching, and lest we forget.
In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row,
that mark our place.
And in the sky, the larks still
bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below.
Amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived,
felt dawn, saw sunset glow,
loved, and were loved.
And now we lie in Flanders Fields.
In Flanders Fields.
Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high.
If ye break faith with us who die,
we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
In Flanders Fields.